Like, he shows up with a fleet and he gets his sorry, it's not funny. I don't even know why I'm laughing. It's not funny. He gets his neck broken. So hello and welcome back to my channel. I have a video coming out for April. It's another trope video, but I wanted to do a video in between so that it wasn't just like trope video. This video is just about me talking about the things that I've been reading. Did I ever start this? Is my mic recording? I don't think it's recording. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, we're recording now. That's embarrassing. Okay, don't even know what I was saying. I'm an English literature major, right? And I feel like there's sort of like a stereotype for English literature majors that, you know, I mean, I have read a few classics because I had to read them, but I feel like there's this stereotype that English lit majors are like in coffee shops, always reading the classics. Personally, at least for me, what I've been reading, a lot of smut. Actually, you know, there was one book that was smutty, and then the other ones, there was like a little bit of sprinkle of a smut, but it wasn't like, you know, crazy. But one of those sprinkles of smut is the ACOTAR series, which I feel like I just heard so much about it. It's really not, like, it wasn't that wild for me. One of the books I did read was wild, and I will get into it. So last year, I set myself a goal of reading, I think, 22 books, and I did not get there at all. Oh no. It was for 25 books. That was my goal. Last year I read 22, which, even though I didn't hit my goal, honestly, I'm pretty proud of myself for even reading 22 books. It's funny because I do feel like a lot of people, when they get into college, it's like they read less, but because of my major, that jump-started me reading more. So, you know, it's like a benefit to my major. So for this year, I've challenged myself to read 20 books. I brought it down from 25 to 20. Since I read 22 last year, I was like, I could probably hit 20. So far, I've already read 8 of the 20 books that I want to read this year. I'm supposedly 4 books ahead of schedule. So I read ACOTAR last year. Okay. It's confusing. So I read A Court of Thorns and Roses last year. And then I read A Court of Mist and Fury this year, Wings and Ruin, and then like so on and so forth, the rest of the series this year. I read this book called 3 Simple Rules, which is the smuttiest book I've read so far in my life. Barbarian Mine, Ice Planet Barbarians. I am currently on Ice Planet Holiday. Ice Planet Holiday is like a novella. It is like a Christmas special kind of thing, and that is like technically, I don't think it's technically the 5th book. I think it's just like an in-between in a series. There are like 23 books in the Ice Planet Barbarian series that I told myself I wouldn't read all of them, but I kind of want to, so I don't know. I might do a video on that too. There's so many things to read, so many videos to do. It's a lot. And I'm looking for a job too. I'm applying for internships. It's just a lot, and I'm stressed out, really stressed out. And I read The Love Hypothesis. So I didn't know if I should talk about this or not, because I feel like so many people have made so many videos on the ACOTAR series, and I'm just going to talk about like the whole series because I pretty much I read like the rest of the series this year, and I read the first book last year, like around Christmas time. There's so many people have like, at first I was going to do like a whole video about it, and I just didn't feel like doing that. I feel like nothing that I say will be like adding anything that other people haven't already said. But so basically with ACOTAR, you have a human girl. She finds herself in a fairy world, an island. It's basically like England. I look very bad right now. But so I was trying to explain that basically the world of Prythian is essentially like, you know, England, Wales, Scotland, that whole island, and Ireland. Then you have an island that's called Highburn, that I guess is kind of taken from the word that Ireland used to be called. But that's where like the evil people, the evil fairies live. I didn't mention this. Like, I didn't highlight it. The bad fairies are from essentially Ireland. And obviously like the ACOTAR world is a fantasy world, so like they're not actually Irish, but again, like it's the connotation because like it looks like that area. Why is the entire island of Highburn like the bad place? So there's very sorceress witch lady who comes to Prythian and like enslaves all the High Lords, and then they kill her and it's like no big deal. Feyre dies and she's revived. But there's another big bad from Highburn that's the king, and he wants to come over to Prythian and like enslave everybody, and you know that's the plot. And then but then you have romance. Feyre was supposed to be with Tamlin, but that didn't work out. Then you have Rhysand, and then he's got like a whole bunch of friends. So when it comes to ACOTAR, I watched so many reviews on it. My introduction to it, I had no idea it was a thing. I didn't know about the books, the world, nothing, nada. Strictly because like I'm just finding out about all these books that have been trending in the book world because I haven't been in the book world, the book community. My first introduction to ACOTAR was with Cindy. Carrie can read. She did like a whole plot summary, and it's so funny because I was like, well, I just like watch these videos. I don't need to read the books now, but it only intrigued me further. So, and like I have a friend that's really into the books. I was like, let me just give it a shot. And honestly, like I do get it. I don't think that this was the intention of the author, but my favorite characters are all the men. The men, and then Nesta. Lucian, I don't know, but he feels like the most well-rounded character to me, but he's being done really dirty in the series, and I hope that gets his happy ending. Honestly, after A Court of Silver Flames, I was like, I don't know if I would continue with the series, but it's just like I'm so interested in finding out what happens, and also kind of like the like who ends up with who sort of thing, because there's certain characters that are single now, and everybody has to have a partner, obviously, so somebody's gonna end up with somebody, and I'm curious to know. I can, of course, watch plot breakdown videos and go on Reddit and figure it out, but I kind of want to read it for myself, so I don't know. There is kind of like, it's kind of like the Massiverse. There is like Sarah J. Maas's series are kind of like in this one big universe, and so there's Throne of Glass, which I'm curious about because people say that that's like some of her best work, so I'm curious to read it. And then the ACOTAR series, and then there's Crescent City, which I really don't know if I want to read that. I'm just not big on urban fantasy anyway. As I was reading the ACOTAR series, I was so sure that I was going to do a video on the whole entire series that I made notes and everything, so I'm just going to go through what I wrote down. I don't know, like a lot of people say the first book is not their favorite, and then there's the whole thing with like Tamlin, obviously, and this, should I warn people, this is spoiler city central. I'm sorry, there's no free spoilers, I'm just getting into it, so don't watch this if you don't want any spoilers. But there's a whole thing with Tamlin and the fact that Tamlin's not actually the love interest, so you're reading this book and like you're supposed to like him, but he's just gonna be irrelevant eventually. But it's funny though because it's sort of like the first book is sort of a setup for the rest of the series, but I actually liked it. It felt the most like a fairy tale to me and the most like a fantasy world. I also feel like I liked the fairies a little bit better, like the fairies and the fairy world, like it felt like fairies to me. I noticed something while rereading, and it kind of, a lot of the world, like the actual world in the series, I feel like each location is sort of like a set piece, And I wish that there was more of like an exploration of like some of the villages and like in the series. But I know like in A Court of Mist and Fury, for example, when they go to the summer court, they go into the city, but there's not like much interaction with the regular fairies, the fairies that aren't, well, I guess I don't even know what's considered high fae. I guess if you're not weird looking, like if you're humanoid, then you're high fae. If you're not, then you're a lesser fairy. Like, it would just been nice to meet some of like the non-royal fairies. I feel like that would have been interesting. I wish, like in the first book, I wish that there was more exploration of the spring court, like the regular people. It would have made what Feyre did later, like when she destroyed the spring court, it would have made it more impactful, I feel like. So Rhysand used to work for the fairy sorceress lady. Her name was Amarantha, who you cannot tell me is not Queen Beryl from Sailor Moon. You can't tell me that that's not her, because that's her. Rhysand used to work for her, and we thought that he was bad. He's not bad though, actually. And I will say I liked when he was more kind of morally gray. I don't even like using that word. I feel like that's overused also in regards to him, because I feel like he's not really a morally gray character. I feel like his character is kind of, he's supposed to be morally gray, but then in later books he's actually a good guy who's like doing all the right things for like, but in a bad way, but like nobody really gets mad at him for it. There's like one thing that he did where he sent Feyre, like he put Feyre in danger, and his friends were like, that was kind of fucked up. But other than that, like a lot of the things that Rhysand does, like he doesn't really get punished for it. I feel like that's a whole thing. But I liked when Rhysand wasn't seen as kind of like the good guy. Like I kind of liked, it would have, honestly, it would have been really interesting if Rhysand was just like the big bad, or like one of the big bads throughout the whole series. That would have been really interesting. I kind of went into a whole tangent about the first book, sort of, but A Court of Mist and Fury is the next book in the series that I read. That was like the first book I read, I guess, in 2023. I don't like the character change for Tamlin. I know there's people that are like, well, he had red flags in the first book. I guess. I don't know. I wish I would have gone into this series without knowing what happens, because I would have liked to see how I felt about things. But personally, I don't really... Some people are like... I've seen some people say that Tamlin very obviously had red flags, and so he didn't get like a whole entire character change. It was in his character to act the way that he acts towards Feyre in the second book, because in the second book, after the trauma that they went through, Tamlin and Feyre, Tamlin is like keeping Feyre locked up in the house, and Feyre loses it. So because they have this bond, Rhysand and Feyre, he can sense that she's struggling, and he sends more his cousin and like one of his people in his court. He sends her to go and get Feyre, so Feyre is in the night court now. But I do feel like Tamlin changes. And it's like kind of confusing, because in the second book, like suddenly Tamlin doesn't give a shit about poor people. Like, I don't know. Let me look it up. Okay. Like this fairy with like blue skin and wings, because like I said, if you're not humanoid, then I guess you're like a lesser fae. And so this lesser fairy, he had his like his wings ripped off by Amarantha. Feyre holds his hand while the fairy is dying, and Tamlin is like, takes it really hard. But then we have a scene in the second book where like they're doing the tithe and they're getting taxes, which for some reason is a bad thing. There's a fairy that's like, I can't afford to pay my taxes, and Tamlin's like, whatever, I don't care, you're poor, I don't care, like give me something. And it's like, I mean, that's just, I feel like where did that come from? Like, so obviously the things, like if we're going by the things that he did in the book, because that's how the character was written, the things that he did were abusive and were bad. Some of that, like, wasn't explored enough. Because the thing is, I don't think people realize how quick, like, this happens in the course, like, the whole entire series happens over the course of, like, probably 3 years, I think. So within, like, a couple of months, Tamlin is just, like, a monster, like, just absolutely abusive and terrible. I just feel like his change happens really quickly. I feel like it'd have been more interesting to see his descent. The writer really wanted to get Feyre and Rhysand together, which I understand, like, as somebody who likes to write, it's exciting. Like, if you have a idea in your mind, like, you want to get there, and I get that. But I just feel like it happens really, really quickly. Yeah, and I just think that Tamlin's trauma in general could have been executed a little better. And that's just kind of how I feel about the series in general, that a lot of things are kind of heavy-handed. Do you have to make characters, like, just super awful so that we can hate them? From A Court of Mist and Fury, though, the chapter 55, that's a chapter that everybody talks about, and I will say it was kind of cute. I think it was it chapter 54 that Rhysand gave his, like, whole monologue? That was sweet, actually. It was actually cute. Chapter 55, that's, like, the smut scene, and that's what I was talking about earlier, that people, I don't know, like, people talk about ACOTAR, like, the series in general, like, it's just so wild sexually, and I'm like, y'all don't even know. But by A Court of Silver Flames, by that I knew. Now that was smutty, though. That was smutty. But so ACOWAR, A Court of Wings and Ruin, that's the end of the series. Highburn is finally doing their stuff, and the Night Court, Rhysand, Feyre, Rhysand's whole crew, like, they go to war, and I feel like it's a lot more planning and, like, battle strategy over, like, actually, like, going to war. And there's a lot of looking at the battle from, like, an outside perspective, so it's really what? Oh my god, that was rude. So I feel like, if I'm gonna compare, I read so Percy Jackson and the Olympians, this whole book is pretty much them at war, I feel like, right? Yeah, like, most of this book is them at war, and somehow Rick Riordan, he made this so entertaining, and I was really engaged, and he just did the battle, in my opinion, really well. I'm sure that there's other, I want to get more into fantasy, so if people have any recommendations. I've read The Lord of the Rings, I've got to the Two Towers, but I want to read it again. Like, I want to, like, just restart the series. I read The Hobbit, and I loved that book, actually, but I don't remember anything. I read it in high school. I would really enjoy some fantasy recommendations if you have any. Oh, I would like to read more books that have, like, good battles in them, just for inspiration too, because I'm a writer, I guess, and I don't know what I'm doing sometimes when I'm writing battle scenes, and I need all the help that I can get, you know? Yeah. I feel like the best part of ACOWAR, it actually was the meeting of the High Lords. That was actually entertaining. And there's just, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of things that, about the ACOTAR series, like, for example, I wrote, what happened to Alice? Like, I just feel like certain things get forgotten or, like, dropped. Yeah, the battle was a little bit anticlimactic, but it was, like, this whole thing that we were leading up to, and, I mean, it just kind of, like, came and went, it feels like. Like, what was the thing with the Archeron sister's father? Like, he shows up with a fleet, and he gets his... Sorry, it's not funny. I don't even know why I'm laughing. It's not funny. He gets his neck broken. I'm sorry. Like, if you were gonna come and get your neck broken, you should just stayed home, sir. You just should have stayed home. Oh my god, I do not know why I found that so funny. I didn't laugh when it happened, but for some reason, now that I'm talking about it, it's funny. Like, he just showed up and then got his neck broken. Like, it's kind of funny. I don't know. I just don't understand the point. Like, why were you there? I don't get it. Anyway, so yeah, that happened and they win, of course. And then Rhysand dies, but then they just revive him. I don't really understand why Rhysand, like, I don't understand why the other High Lords would want to revive him. Like, Feyre with her powers could have, like, forced them to, and that's one thing. And that would have been interesting, actually, if she had done that, like, forced them to revive Rhysand. But, they didn't have, like, any obligation. They didn't particularly like Rhysand, so I don't really get why they would revive him. I don't actually understand the whole revival thing, because couldn't you just revive anybody? Yeah, I read A Court of Silver Flames. This is, like, sort of like a spin-off, I guess, but it's a part of the world, but it focuses on Nesta and Cassian, who is Rhysand's general of his army. That one, I listened to that on audiobook, and it's really long, so I wasn't finna read it. It's like 800 pages. It was, like, I honestly feel like you could say it was, like, 90% smut and 10% plot. I saw on Reddit, somebody said it was, like, mostly vibes. And that's what it is, I feel like. Nesta is working through her trauma through sex and exercise. And then she makes a bunch of girlfriends, which I actually really like them. I like them better than the inner circle. But maybe that's because, like, I'm a very much, like, a girls kind of person, and I love girl friendships, girl power. So I thought that was cute. I thought their friendship was cute. And I like Cassian. Their sexy times were sexy. But at some point, it was like, whew. This is a lot. This is a lot. I forgot to mention the thing with the pregnancy plot, and Rhysand keeping the fact that she might die a secret from her, taking away that choice from Feyre, was a choice. All the things that you could say about the series, I found it interesting, and it is entertaining. I mean, it's not like highbrow literature, but it's fun. Probably will be reading more. I had to switch it up because my camera was dying and I needed to charge it. Okay, moving on to where I need to get it. I'll get it and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I got this book from Barnes & Noble a while back. The point of bringing this book out is that I'm a Sagittarius moon. There's a section for, specifically what to do when the moon is in Sagittarius. And it's like that for every, placement. Even if you don't have, like, for example, moon in Virgo, it'll tell you what to do when the moon is in Virgo, regardless of what your sign is. And it's not like it's like my Bible. It's not like I do everything it says. But it's just fun. Like, it's literally just fun. Anyway, so the next book I want to talk about, the reason why I bring this book out is because the moon was in Scorpio when I bought this book. So for things to do when the moon is in Scorpio, it says research or make investments. Get your finances in order. Practice. I have no idea what that is. Have hot, steamy sex. That's not going to happen. Pay attention to dreams and insights. Visit someone in hospice. Go shopping for ruby or garnet jewelry. Also not going to happen because I'm broke. Eat dark chocolate and drink red wine. Read a sexy book. Hold a confidential meeting or rendezvous. Share deep secrets with someone you trust. This is the most chaotic. What is going on? Get an astrology or tarot reading and go to an underground club. Also not going to happen. So the one thing that I could do was read a sexy book. And I was like, I need a sexy book. Like, I don't have one, so let me get one. So I went to Reddit, the romance subreddit, and I was like, I looked up what is, like, the steamiest book that I could possibly read. And people suggested 3 Simple Rules by Nikki Sloan. First person, the main character, her name is Evie. In order to save my skin at the office, I'm forced to sell it at an exclusive and illegal blindfold club. He paid thousands of dollars for one night to own me, but when my blindfold comes off, I want more. More nights, more rules, and more from this unavailable and uncompromising man. Rule number 1, no questions. Rule number 2, no lies. But rule number 3, that's the hardest one to obey. So rule number 3, I actually forget what it was. I think it was like it's one of those, like, not falling in love or whatever, something like that. The main character, she messes up at work, and it's like a marketing company or something. They have like these business cards for this company and she messes up the business cards, and in order to fix the business cards, she offers her own money. But Evie makes this mistake at work, and she's like, okay, I know a way to get money, but you need to give me like this amount of time so that I can fix this problem. So yeah, she works at this club for a night. Her boss, who is the main male character, the main love interest, he finds out that she's going to be at this club. So he's been wanting to like sleep with her forever. So he finds out, he has the night with her. She was really nervous about who she would sleep with, but she ends up being with him. The rest of the book is just them having steamy sex together. That's it. There is a bit of a plot, but it's mostly sex. Like, it's literally just mostly sex. It's like pretty well written for a, like this kind of book. While I enjoyed it, there's one problem that I have with it, or just one thing that I was like, So there's a threesome in the book between Evie, her friend, and the main male love interest, which is fine. My problem is that it was a surprise for the main male love interest, and her friend was helping her out because Evie wanted to recreate the night they got together when she was at this club, and the club, has this thing where the girls have on blindfolds, and they're like they're tied up. Ugh, yeah. And so her friend helps tie her up, put the blindfold on, and then she starts like touching her, and Evie's like, hold on, I'm not really sure if I'm into this. Ultimately Evie's fine with it, sort of. It's kind of strange because from the time the threesome starts till the end, like the whole book is through Evie's point of view. So it's like she seems okay with it, but then she doesn't. Like, as in terms of the threesome, which is one thing, but especially when her friend Peyton starts like doing things to her, she's like, I don't know if I like this. I'm not sure. Like, I think I might like this, but like I'm not sure. But she can't physically stop it. I don't know about that. That was my friend. We wouldn't be friends anymore. That's all I'm saying. Just letting you know, like, if you choose to read this book. But so the next book that I read is Barbarian Mine, the fourth book in the Ice Planet Barbarians series. So for Ice Planet Barbarians, I used to have TikTok. I don't have TikTok anymore. It has nothing to do with everything that's happening. I just deleted it because I was spending way too much time on it. I found out about a few books before I deleted it. Ice Planet Barbarians is one of the few books that I was interested in to read. One night, I just downloaded the first book because I was like, let's just try it. I was able to read it, but fair warning, like, if you want to read Ice Planet Barbarians and like get into the series, you'll have to read book 1. Book 1 does have a graphic rape scene, and nobody mentioned that on TikTok, so that was nice. Everybody was just like, these hot alien men have sex with these earth women, and nobody mentioned the rape scene, and I was like, what? Read the first book, and I was like, why am I reading this? Like, it was my first like foray into the monster romance thing, and I felt so weird reading it. I was like, this is wrong. Like, it just feels wrong, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's just different. But I'm on book number 5 now, so yeah. Basically, with Ice Planet Barbarians, you have a bunch of Earth women. They are abducted from Earth, from the planet Earth, and they're taken to this ice planet that one of the girls is a Star Wars fan, and she calls it not Hoth because it's an ice planet, but it's not Hoth, and so it just gets dubbed not Hoth by the Earth girls. But so yeah, they get taken to this planet, and Georgie from the Earth women, she becomes like the leader of the Earth women. She ventures out to find help or just find something, and she meets a big blue alien man who is the chief of other big blue aliens. And Georgie and this guy, his name is Vectel? Yeah. the alien. They hook up, and it's great, whatever. But she's like, there's other women that I need to go help. And he's like, there's other women. This is great because I have a tribe full of men, not that many women. So like, let's get these alien men and these earth women together because this blue alien race, they were also stranded on this ice planet a really long time ago. And there's not that many of them. And there's way more men than there are women. So now we can bring more blue alien babies onto this ice planet. So it's great. So that's what happens. The first book is Georgie and Vectel, and then the rest are just the other Earth women and the other blue aliens hooking up and having babies. The series is bonkers. Like, it is crazy, but I fucking love it. Ice Planet Barbarians, like, it's dual POV for pretty much every book that I've read so far. The novella that I'm reading right now, it's multiple POVs. The like main books in the series, because they focus on different couples, it's typically like the girl and the alien guy, the girl and the alien guy. So Barbarian Mine is Harlow and Rooks. Basically, at the end of the third book, Harlow, she is... oh god, it's so much to explain. Like, it's so much to explain. But she's out with Kiro, who's another human woman, and a blue alien named Ahako, who's Kira's mate. And they're like doing some shit out in the woods, I forget. But Harlow wanders off and she gets knocked over the head and dragged somewhere. And that's the end of her story. In book 3, book 4, we pick up with her and this guy, an alien man, who he is a part of the tribe, but he's kind of like, he like grew up away from the tribe because his father was exiled. So he was born out in the wilderness, grew up in the wilderness. So he has to like learn not just the earth human ways, but the ways of his own people. The whole book is them getting to know each other. The sex, honestly, it's really not that wild in the book. Like, it's smutty, but it's not like crazy. The writing, again, like, I think books like these, you think that they're just so ridiculous and unreadable, but the writing is like not that bad. And the world building is surprisingly really good. There are things that are, you know, keep in mind, because Harlow was hit over the head by Rook, and he's basically like a caveman. He's like raised by wolves, feral type of person, so he doesn't understand how to like interact with people properly. So yeah, there are things like that where it's like cultural differences, communication issues, because they're two different species from two different planets with like, you know, completely different languages, cultures. And so there's nothing so far that I've seen that it's really like crossing a line. Not that I've read so far. The worst thing was the rape scene from the first book. So that is something that I would definitely look out for. So apparently the last book was The Love Hypothesis. And it's one of those books that I heard everyone talking about, and I finally just read it. I know I am so behind. I'm behind on so many books. There's so many really popular books that I have not read, like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. The Love Hypothesis. It was entertaining. Pretty much every book that I have read so far in 2023, not highbrow literature, but just entertaining. But The Love Hypothesis, let me read the synopsis. So, Olive Smith doesn't believe in lasting romantic relationships, but her best friend does, and that's what got her into the situation. Convincing On that Olive is dating and well on her way to a happily ever after was always going to take more than hand-wavy Jedi mind tricks. Scientists require proof. So, like any self-respecting biologist, Olive panics and kisses the first man she sees. That man is none other than Adam Carlson. So, a young hotshot professor and well-known ass, which is why Olive is positively floored when Stanford's reigning lab tyrant agrees to keep her charade a secret and be her fake boyfriend. But when a big science conference goes haywire, putting Olive's career on the Bunsen burner, Adam surprises her again with his unyielding support and even more unyielding six-pack abs. Suddenly, their little experiment feels dangerously close to combustion, and Olive discovers that the only thing more complicated than a hypothesis on love is putting her own heart under the microscope. The main male character is based off of Adam Driver, and it's so obvious, like, but I knew that before reading the book, and if I didn't know that, I might not have picked up on it. And if I didn't know that the writer was like a big Star Wars fan, I wouldn't have picked up on it. Like, while reading it, I was trying my darndest. I was trying so hard to not imagine Adam Driver. Not because I don't like him, because I love Adam Driver. He's like one of my, oh my god. But it's like, it was taking me out of the story, constantly thinking of Adam Driver, and like I was trying to imagine, like, okay, this is a movie, like imagine it as a movie, but when I'm reading, I like to be in that world, and it feels like I'm there, like I'm like a bird's eye view, like fly on the wall. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm, like, I can see the images in my head, but it doesn't feel like I'm watching a movie, like it's, you know, immersive, and like I feel like I'm in it. And I kept getting taken out of it because I kept imagining Adam Driver. And at some point, I think I just gave up and I was like, it's Adam Driver. It's like Reylo fan fiction, like, you know, Kylo Ren and Rey from Star Wars. And so the girl is also supposed to, like, be Daisy Ridley, but I didn't see Daisy Ridley. I was seeing Adam Driver. And it was just really taking me out. There's, like, this thing, I guess, in a lot of romances where it's, like, the height difference is, like, a thing, and, like, you know, it's called a size kink or whatever. Like, the female love interest is short and the guy is really tall. The thing is, Olive is like 5'8", which is pretty tall for a girl. And I don't know how tall Adam is supposed to be, but she's always just like, he's so tall. Does he have to be so tall? And she said girls who are 5'8" rarely felt diminutive. And I'm like, how tall is he for her to be 5'8" and feel really, really short? So is he 6'8"? Like, how tall is he? Because if he's, Adam Driver is like 6'2". So if you're 5'8" and he's 6'2", that's not that crazy of like a height difference. So I don't know. And the whole reason why they're fake dating is because Olive's friend is into her ex, although she wasn't that into him, but her friend is still weirded out and she's worried that, like, she'd be breaking girl code, I guess. So Olive, she fake dates Adam so that her friend An will date her ex. And it's like, that's too complicated. Like, just date. Like, if this was my friend, I'd be like, can you just date him, please? And An, throughout this fake dating scenario, there's these moments where An is like, why don't you go and kiss your boyfriend? Sit in your boyfriend's lap. Do all this and that. And it's like, if this was my friend, I would be like, can you shut up? Some of Olive's struggles, though, I relate to. Like, she talks about how she's never been able to show interest really in anyone, but it seems like she has to have a connection with the person in order to, like, actually have a relationship, which I relate to. The sex scene was interesting. She says that he put her boob in his mouth, and honestly, yeah, I had to reapply my lip gloss. I mean, I didn't have to, but I wanted to. Honestly, it's not ridiculous to think that he could fit a boob. Like, if somebody has a small breast, like, it's not ridiculous to think that he couldn't fit her boob in his mouth. I guess it's just people are imagining their boobs. Like, my boob can't fit in a mouth unless you're, like, a titan. But there's this line where, because he's so big, you know, like, physically just really tall and, like, has massive fingers, apparently. And she's like, he had big fingers. That must be why they didn't fit. Oh, and then he wants to, like, service her. Like, he wants to go down on her. She said, I'm the one who put you up to this. I guess talking about sex? I forget. I think that's what she was talking about. So we should do things that you are into and not stuff for me. Like, she's trying to convince him to not go down on her. I'm like, girl, let him lick you. Like, what? He's so big, apparently. It says, Olive was lax now and pliant and still not loose enough. Olive tells Adam that she loves him in Dutch because he grew up in the Netherlands, I think. Yeah. It was fun to read. Like, a lot of the books I read So far, they were just fun to read. Like I said, they were not highbrow literature. They were just fun, and that's it. The sun went down. I had dinner. This ended up being so long. I'm done. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. My next video should be about, I did a video about the evil stepmother trope. The reason why I did it was because it was supposed to be for for Women's History Month, because I wanted to look at how women were portrayed in media, but I thought it'd be better for the video to come out in April, because I don't want to have like a back-to-back video of like the same type of thing. Hopefully anybody watching will like that too. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. Been up for way too long.